Right, so this will probably be briefer than I intended because I've just had a bit of a problem with the recording. Anyway, I've just had a bit of an epiphany regards GarageBand and the new OS that Apple have brought out. I figured out what's wrong, and it is that they have made Apple Windows this massive, unwieldy superstructure that they have slapped on the top of their operating system. So they now completely ruined this amazing iPad that I bought, this M1 iPad Pro. When I got it 3 years ago, I bought it used at quite a discount. When I got it then, I wanted to see how powerful it was, so I ran one of the DAWs, which was Cubasis. I ran that with 60 tracks on it. I just kept copying the tracks down. And I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And then I got GarageBand running with 25 tracks. So I'm at well over 60 tracks. And they both just ran. It was quite a racket. But I could tell by ear that everything was running properly. Now, that was a big difference in my iPad Pro Generation 2 that I'd had before. It was the one where, I think it's the last one, where you got one of those connectors for your earbuds. Now, some stuff that Apple do, you know, you're pretty much dragged along into it. They're a big corporation and they have their idea about what they want to do. Now they've really screwed the pooch. Because now GarageBand, which is a sophisticated piece of software, is finding it unwieldy and burdensome to do all the tasks that we'd like to do. It's quite resource hungry. And what's happened is Apple have gone and created this whole layer above the operating system, which we'll call Apple Windows. And it's just as shit as Microsoft Windows. Back in the day, I used to support software, technical support, and that software was called AutoCAD by a company called Autodesk. And it was pretty resource hungry. And so I didn't want anything in the way. So I made sure that any machine that ran it only ran the version that didn't use Windows, because that's another resource hungry program and doesn't help you to draw or turn 3D things around in space and stuff. Right. GarageBand has now got itself the same problem. Apple have come and said, there you are, you're going to have, because I was forced to update to iOS 18 from 17, otherwise I'd still be in 17 now. They didn't allow me to stay on iOS 17. I couldn't run GarageBand, it just came up with a message, you will have to use iOS 18 in order to run this application. Now that's pretty thoughtless, and dare I say it, quite un-American. I mean, there's no choice, is there? And it's not necessary either. There's no technical reason for it. They just, for whatever hidden reason, just wanted everyone to move up. So, okay. And then they turned it into iOS 26. And there were some features that you could get if you moved to iOS 26. Okay, so, you know, you end up migrating because they pretty much push you into it. I had no idea what a pile of garbage iPadOS 26 was going to be. And that huge unwieldy superstructure, that those layers that now GarageBand has to dive through to save things to file. I figured out what's up. My iPad Pro, that beautifully, it just ran like butter. Ran GarageBand, no problem. Now that device is slowed down, it's like some old iPhone. It stutters. You go through the list of your songs. My songs are about 750 gigabytes a piece. And you go through this list and you know, it's common practice this. You leave all your instruments that you're going to use inside the song. So my blank song has got like 26 different tracks that have instruments in them. And you just, you know, it's just very convenient to do it that way. And now everything's glitchy and stuttery, there's crashes, and I figured out what it is. I literally have to sit there twiddling my thumbs whenever I do something like come out of GarageBand. I need to twiddle my thumbs while it saves the cluster of files. It looks like it's one file, it's not, it's about 5 or 6 files form a GarageBand file. And I've got to wait patiently while it does that, trying to work its way through the mess that is Apple Windows. I've been having to reboot, and I've figured out that I don't actually have to reboot. I have to sit there twiddling my thumbs for anything up to about 45 seconds while the program GarageBand saves everything. It used to be like that. Now it's like 45 seconds. Otherwise, if I try to go back into the song, I've made a little backup, it'll just crash. That's on top of any other issues with developers that can't keep up with iOS, iPadOS 26. The only reason I bought an iPad was for GarageBand. It's the only program I use to make music. I have got other DAWs, but I don't use them. I've made songs with them, but I really don't generally like using them. And I like to keep the focus on musical problems, which is why I prefer GarageBand. It's got lots of drawbacks, but it's the one I find easiest to use. So all my problems are going to be musical problems. So what Apple have done is they've now had these beautiful machines that up till about 4 months ago ran really well, and now they've screwed the pooch. Somebody's going to have to go to one of these boardroom meetings and look down that long table and say to somebody important, you realize we've really ruined the experience for a lot of users who want to get on with creation of stuff, and we've completely ruined it for them. And maybe they meant to make us all buy newer iPads or something. I think they're managing to sell quite a lot of stuff as it is, but now I'll tell you how bad it is. I've been looking to go from an iPad Pro M1 to an iPad Pro M4, and I reckon it's not sufficiently fast enough to make up for the damage that's been done by Apple Windows. And that's the trouble. The M5 isn't that much faster than the M4. So I could turn over my iPad and get an M4 or an M5, but I don't think it's going to be up to what the M1 was up to 3 years ago. They have literally stuck everything in reverse regards performance. I use one program that I give a damn about, and the others are all just by the way. It's absolutely a disaster how such a successful, profitable corporation like this can throw out, just vomit out what would I call it? A substandard version of Windows and just throw it onto the platform, and even force people like me to upgrade, that's funny, update, or I can't run the program. How they can do that, I don't know. It's pretty bad. It shows a degree of arrogance and a horrifying attitude towards the customers. I have spent thousands of pounds on Apple hardware, and they've got a lot more money as well through software purchases I've made. So I'm probably into them for about $3,000 by this point. And I've had to buy ancillary stuff to make everything work because they refuse to put a headphone socket. Okay. You know, some stuff you can work with. They've literally managed to do the thing finally that I can't overcome. And I think if I got an M4, it'd be barely keeping my head above water regards how GarageBand would function. Why'd they do it? I don't know. I would have thought the last corporation they wanted to emulate was Microsoft. Anyway, here we are, Apple Windows, a mess. When I reboot my iPad, it can be 15 seconds before the icons fill in. It's just a grey load of boxes for about 15 seconds. So when I come out of GarageBand, I've got to twiddle my thumbs for about 45 seconds while it makes files that it used to make in 3, 4, 5 seconds. I don't make, 100 megabyte songs or anything, It's, I think I might have said gigabytes before, but my songs are quite often, 800 megabytes, a gigabyte in size. It's just what the instruments take up. It's not the songs are complex particularly, it's the instruments take up all that space in the files that get saved. I don't have anything else to say. If you've got a comment, feel free to put it down. Apple have really screwed the pooch. And how they unscrew it from here, I don't know, because corporations like Apple are not known for having disruptive people in the boardroom. They've normally filtered people out by the time it gets to boardroom level. You won't get many disruptors sitting around that table. Who's going to tell them? They've absolutely fucked it. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for listening.